Hello, this is Astro Breeze, and welcome to your weekly transits. And we have a very interesting week. We have a very interesting month. Um, I would say it's kind of a month of adjustments, a month of a lot of quincunxes, that weird 150-degree aspect that is hard to. It's just there's nothing in common, and it's annoying and it's hard to get along with. Put it that way. So we're coming up into a solar eclipse this week, and we will get there. But I just wanted to show a picture of it. It's not going to be a true total eclipse. It'll be what's called an annular eclipse, and um, one interesting thing about annular eclipses is that they, even though they're total, the moon is not as close to the Earth as like it is in a supermoon. So the moon is actually farther away, and it doesn't totally cover the sun. But I'll show you that in a little bit. But I just wanted you to see a picture of that before we start. So, wow. I guess we'll go over to the chart and we'll just start looking. I'm gonna take a little bit to unpack this because there's a lot going on, and there will be a lot more going on this month. It's a very busy, noisy astrological time, and as we are today on the 10th of October, and we had a very interesting Mars-Pluto square, and we had a very interesting world eruption of a lot of violence in the Middle East this past weekend. So just to show how astrology brings some things out, I hope I can get through this all here. So let's go look over to the charts. Let me get a new share and we'll go looky here. All right, we're going to back up to yesterday. Actually, let me see. Yeah, no, let's go back just another day so we can see that. I want to see that. Why isn't that showing it? Anyway, we had this over here on Sunday. Let's just jump in there. Probably this, because I don't have this all the aspects set in here. I don't know why this one isn't here, but nonetheless, Mars 27 of a cardinal sign over to Pluto 27 of a cardinal sign. That's a square, and it was building up to that. And Saturday was yucky, and because it was coming on, and then here Sunday, it's not exact to the minute. I don't want to click over to it, but you get the idea. This is East Coast time, and it was 10:30 a.m. and Mars was almost to the exact minute as Pluto. So anyway, that was building, and then that is now it's coming into as Mars moves on, which we'll get there. Anyway, that was that really tense aspect. There was also the sun was, this little thing is a sesquiquadrate. It's a square and a half a square, so it's like hard, challenging, and more annoyance. So that's not a real nice aspect. And we're going to look at these. I have the aspects set for some of these. And the sun, we're going to see a lot of this. So we're going to see a lot of these quincunxes, a lot of oppositions, and a lot of these half squares and squares and a half. So this just makes for a very annoying month, a very hard to swallow month. It's like, something running in the background that's just an annoying sound and you can't shut it off kind of sound. We have to adjust to a lot of things. Doesn't mean we should swallow stuff, just take it lying down. There's going to be a lot of points where people can voice truth, but again, we'll get there. So anyway, this is what we were coming into. So we can see that, and then we can see, Venus as she's getting to the end of Leo, or as she was, starting into an intense opposition to Saturn. So we'll get there too. And of course, Moon makes all kinds of aspects. And that day, the Moon was making a lot of noise too. It was, squaring Jupiter. So we have emotions on a large level, with the Earth. So that could be, your mind can just get around that. And then as the Moon got a little further, then it made the square over to Uranus. So here could be some indications of the political mess in the Middle East, the Palestinian and Israeli conflict that's going on. Might as well talk about it now. I have to pull this up, but while I was thinking about it, the birth charts of uh, Palestine and Israel were both in May. They're both Taurus. And I don't want to get into the whole history of all that right now, but just because we got so much other things to talk about. But anyway, there were like 21 degrees Taurus. And they both have a Leo rising with that Taurus sun. So we've got an inherent, I mean, not to the degree, but we have a square there. And I'm sorry, moon, the Leo moon. But the ascendants, Palestine's ascendant is Aquarius, where Israel's was Libra. Just interesting to note. But anyway, both of the sun was at 21 degrees. So we're going to, as you see, that Uranus right now is retrograde at 22 degrees. So that would be, exact conjuncts both of those areas. So that would be, astrologically stirring all that up because those suns are conjunct there. Now, let me just give you a little bit of forewarning. We've got Uranus is not going to go direct until I believe it's the last one turning direct. I can't remember right now. I think it's like January. I'll probably look it up in a minute. But we're gonna, and then when it goes, it's going to go direct. So it's going to be going over those degrees, 21 degrees, and then it'll change, and then it'll be at that degree for months, for a long time in 2024. So we kind of have the beginning of a big problem just starting over there, maybe other places as well, but that's a big one that I'm just going to mention right now. We'll talk about China and Taiwan another day. But anyway, you can see these things stirring up because this is world, this is mundane astrology. This is of the world, not any one in particular. So I just thought I'd say that because we can see astrologically some of these things stewing, and I want to mention it while we're at that Taurus stuff. Okay, moving on. So that's where we started, and then Monday I have to just draw your attention to this huge stellium up here in Libra. So we've got the sun, and then Mercury is always close to the sun, and then we have Mars right before it leaves. It's about to go into Scorpio. We'll talk about that in a minute, and all going by the South Node. So a lot of something's got to be gotten rid of here. Purged. This is kind of, I don't really like to see the sun by the South Node, and Mars just crossed it. Mars crossed the South Node, and then the sun's about to cross it, and then Mercury will cross all this. So we're going to get a lot of noise with individuals, the world, getting to that somehow of a purging, dumping, but this is like old stuff from the past. The South Node is about your old karma, things we brought in. These are old things. These are, this relationship that was set up by the Brits and the Pope. All roads lead to Rome, to between Palestine and Israel. But nonetheless, we can see now that Mars going over the South Node. That's just irritation. It's conflict. It's getting rid of. It's aggressive purging. It's conflict, and then the sun is going to get ready to do that. So we've got a couple of weeks. So of some intense energy here, and then Venus is going pretty quick now. So it's going to go over the sun, and they'll both go over that. So just a word to wise, and then we have all of this Libra energy, which should be about others, about the seventh house or Libra. It's about relationships, partnerships, open enemies. Libra's not all nicey. There's that ugly side of that as well. But it's also on the good side. It's about harmony, relationships, beauty, fashion, and money. So another thing with all this area, kind of being stimulated, it's going to bring more attention to those areas. All right, so we can see this red line here. This is that square and a half that we were talking about. We talked about that, and that's just dour. That's square and a half is just, let me get my other notes here. Yeah, that's the, oh, I know what I wanted to start into. Yeah, this was I wanted to mention this too, because I think it's not really showing here. Where's Venus? Up here, and then Pluto. Okay, so there's an aspect here before, it's like right before, let me go back just a second, where Venus was at, when it was, she was coming into the opposition, not quite there, but she was at a quincunxs over to Pluto there. I just wanted to show that to you. So here's where starting some of these irritating aspects. So this was, on the 6th, it started to set up. And then we had this, in conjunct from the sun over to Jupiter too. So EU. Okay, just setting you up here. We had to go over some of this material. I think I did in the last transits, but I just got to catch up when we're here. Okay, so we're getting over to yesterday, Monday. So Venus just then moved into Virgo. It's been at its stay in Leo there for months. What was it, June or something when it's been in there? So it's been in there. It doesn't usually stay that long in a sign, but it had its retrograde, so it was there longer. So we've got a little difference of energy here. We've got a lot of all the inner signs will be changing signs. Look at, Mercury just changed into Libra. Now we have Venus changing into Virgo, and then in a couple days you'll see Mars changing into Scorpio. So all those inner planets, wow, quite a movement, right, on that, in that kind of surface daily noisy level. But yet I have to stress that the outer planets are all still retrograde. Pluto is going to go direct. It's actually today, but you'll see it in a second. Yeah, I'll show you in a minute. It'll station, but it hasn't been moving. It's been at 27 degrees there for a while, and it will be a while before it picks up speed. So, anything that's in that stationary point, either retrograde or direct, is very powerful because it's technically like not moving, right? It's in a spot that's in that degree for a lot longer. So, is Mars just now clicked off of that square? It's still in effect. We still have that nasty agitation, and a lot of times right after the aspect, it doesn't just go away. It's just because it's done doesn't mean it's done, but this is still in effect. This is still a lot of bitter nastiness, and if you have things at those late degrees, it could be affecting you as well. Sure, certainly, duh. So don't forget to check that, because you have anything at 28 degrees in cardinal signs, it's going to affect you really, I think, worse. It's going to be at that, that intensity. And then if you have it at other angles, trines, conjuncts might be pretty intense, but any softer angle, sextiles might be a lot better. Okay, so outer planets. Still, look at, Saturn is there. Saturn's retrograde, Neptune's retrograde, Uranus is retrograde, Jupiter's retrograde. So those further out ones are all retrograde. So that means they're not forward in motion, and they don't move that much anyway, because they're more distant, except for Saturn and Jupiter. But so that means they're all really still. They're all really potent. We got some depth of stuff that's kind of anchoring things, while all this more closer things are starting to get really neurotic. Okay, had to say that. It was, well, I said, a lot to unpack today. All right, so we can see all this mess going on. The moon is, of course, in Leo, it's going to be squaring over to Uranus and Jupiter, and making, upsetting that little stuff over there too. Okay, so today, which brings us to the 10th. There's more than this little thing shows, and I'm still trying to set more of these aspects up. There's so many choices. I just have, going through a lot of that just takes time. Nonetheless, I'll just kind of talk you through it here. The sun, let's just talk about that. Okay, so we've got um, the sun is opposite. Well, so see, this is a far away. It's not quite opposite or right there yet. It's not there. It's 17 degrees. But one thing that this isn't showing here is the sun is um, a half a square to Venus. Well, it is. I'm sorry. So we got that one. It's just right in effect. So that's like that 45 degrees. That's pretty close. So that's as annoying. You know, the sun, it's got that kind of just that debilitating energy from Venus. Not real pleasant. And then Venus is that we've got a square and a half from Venus over to Saturn. So it's, I mean, it almost, I'm sorry, it's almost an opposition here over to Saturn. It's actually it is. I don't know why I didn't show it. It's so we've got Venus getting into that exact opposition with Saturn, and that's not pleasant either. But it could add some stability, or I don't want to say total stability, maybe, but some um, restrictions. That's the word I want, like with finances and flow. All right, and then we have Mercury. That's the other one I was looking for. Mercury is the square and a half over to Uranus. Okay, so that to me is going to indicate like we're not quite done speaking yet. You know, there's still a lot of upset and noise and verbal confrontation. Um, it's an interesting. I have a little note on that one for you. It's an interesting aspect because you have the communications of Mercury, and again that square and a half is annoying, and it's to Uranus. So there's it's like you're walking by somebody and they go, "Hey, if you," something like that. It's like, what? It's not a nice thing and it's out of the blue. It's like, where'd that come from? So it's like, or communications that maybe you're not understood. Maybe you didn't make your point clear. Maybe you didn't understand somebody. So there's a chance of some communications or abrupt communications out of the blue, something you didn't expect. So that is definitely kind of like where it could have happened today. It's still happening today, and that will this some of these patterns are going to be repeating because we have planets moving into those same places. Okay, so interesting. What else here? We've got, I was going to say we talked about the moon, and we've got Mars. We still are. It's just passing again that engage. That heavy energy is still hanging around from Pluto, but it's going to start to pick up more as it moves forward. It'll start picking up on this trine coming up to Saturn, which will be good. All right, let's carry on here. Anything else on the 10th do I have? I said Mercury. Yeah, Mercury actually is also going to be, it's going to be an inconjunct or a quincunxs as it gets a little more over to Jupiter. So it's starting close to that as Mercury moves on, you'll start seeing that. So that's another annoying energy on a large level, and then we look, what is it about? So we have Mercury, communications in Venus, could be Venus, in Libra, and its rulers, Venus, values, Libra, others, Libra, relationships, anything Libra, and it could be even like fashion or beauty. So anything kind of on that Libra level, and then it's like solid, Taurus, earthy, and it's kind of on a big level, so it can get extravagant, and it's not in a good conversation. Something can pile up too fast. The communications are again misunderstood. So this is some of that irritation kind of coming through, and then Neptune. Here's maybe some more. We got some nebulous Neptune stuff. Neptune is that quincunxs, that 25 degrees Pisces over to 25 Libra of the South Node. So that again is some confusion about letting things go of the past, confusion about stuff that was happening from the past, confusion, nebulous reality about letting things go. Maybe we can say that as well. Okay. There's a lot. I knew there was a lot in the day. It gets a little easier. So, well, it changes in a different way. Wednesday, just note that, we've got the moon over here now in Virgo. The moon would have just passed over Venus. So, it could have some emotional spending. It could have some emotions with others, with, some kind of emotional event, because, all this Libra stuff is still stirred up there. So just kind of, keep checking in with that. Mars is like right at the nth degree, it's starting to really trine Saturn now. So some of this energy will be dissipating, of the Mars square to Pluto. That'll kind of dissipating, and it's going to be picking up on um, in the next day. We'll get there in just a second. But we've got the moon. It will be making this what's the word I'm on here? Oh, in conjunct over to the north node, and that half, as it moves through the sign, and then it'll be it's at a square and a half, and then it'll just get to the 30 degrees over to of course the south node. So the moon will be like kind of stirring up that energies, is what I'm trying to say, because of that. The moon is also going to be trining, nice though, the Uranus. I'm sorry, the Jupiter and Uranus, yeah, in Taurus. It'll go Jupiter first, then Uranus as it goes through the day. You can see right here at 10:30 Eastern time, it's trining Jupiter exactly. So that's going to be lending maybe some emotional harmony or solidity to anything expanding, any large event, maybe the world at large, hopefully. And then we got some surprise things when it hits Uranus. So we got that little bing bong, as anything is moving past those two conveys. Oh boy. All right. So, gosh, what else do we got here? We've got lots of stuff to unpack. Oh my goodness. What else I want to hear you here? Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday. We talked about that's getting closer. Look, you can see the quincunxs from Mercury getting a little closer and over here to Jupiter. All right, and we'll get right on. Okay, right on with the right on. Here we go. Mars on Thursday moves into Scorpio, and then it starts and it trines, goes right away over to that Saturn. So I think that is a really big thing, because that starts into a little bit of discipline and structure to a lot of stuff that's just gone wild. Mars, though, moving into its other sister, its other own sign, its masculine interpretation is Aries, its feminine interpretation is Scorpio. So, this is just going to intensify passions. I don't know if this is going to be, in my book, it might just make things worse on one level, because passions get intense, and it's not usually on a good level. There can be deeper connections to our innermost feelings, though, on a personal level. Your feelings could be charged. Yeah. You get into that depth of Scorpio. Oh, all of that passion, all that intensity, all of that depth, all that drive, that's just going to be coming out, and it's going to be intense. Let's just say that it's going to be very, very intense. Mars has been kind of restricted there for a while. It had to like be all nicey kind of, or when it was in Libra, it was like indecisive. So it's got to be more, it's got to like, I'm done. I'm now it's not indecisive anymore. It makes things more resolute. It goes from, things being, what would I say, from compromising to maybe actual commitment, instead of like giving in, it's like, no, this is going to happen. So that's a good thing. But again, it's very, very intense. Okay. There's the moon making that quincunx, and then it's also making that square and a half. Look at those angry stuff. A lot of things here. Sun is starting more over here, and we've got Mercury again with making a square and a half over to Saturn. So again, it's just not done haggling things out. It's like Mercury, at this odd degree, this square and a half to Saturn. I don't usually rag on them, but they're there, and they're annoying, and there's a lot of them. So I don't want to ignore that because you'll see how intense they are. This is kind of like yelling at authorities, like challenging structure, challenging authority. It's like Mercury can come in at a cardinal uh, um, embodiment of that Venusian energy and just kind of be a little bang, bam, to Saturn, which is kind of not its best place in Pisces. So not its best place, in this area. So it's weak here. So it can get be blindsided a little bit. All righty, moving on here. The 13th, we're coming into that eclipse. You can see the moon here is getting closer. The sun is 19, and next day it'll be 20. It's like 21 in a little bit. But we have that, we have that nice, got that nice trine with Mars going over to Saturn. And I wish this, I'm laughing because I don't know why this isn't showing it for us. So we got that as we work our way in, and we still got some of those, that angry conversation with Mercury happening. So the moon is like on its way over here to start having conversations. It's going to cross over, Mercury first, and then it'll cross over the sun. So we've got communications, and then we've got ego. So kind of watch what you say, maybe how you say it, or if somebody says something to you, try not to take it too offensively. Pat that ego down and say you're bigger than that. All right. Excuse me. All right, the big day. Coming to Saturday, and let me get hours so we can get it lined up. There it is. So it just passed it over there. Okay, so let's get when it's on the other side of it. Nope, won't do it, will it? And we'll go right there. It's 21. It just passed a little bit. I can actually, we can go to do it. Where's the other side of it? Is it doing it? Yeah. Almost. The sun, the moon. It's at 10, 9, 8. There we go. All right. Okay. Nice. Look at that. Right there. So the moon is like, when it's going over there, the moon now is in like kind of at a stressed point. It's like almost like, as it's going there, it becomes the midpoint, and then all of a sudden it joins and it gets sucked into that sun energy. I want to show you while we're here. Let's see, let me share. There it is. Okay. This is what the eclipse will actually look like. It's far away. You see the moon, the sun on the outside, and the moon is going over that, and it's not, because it's so far away, it doesn't completely blot out the sun. See? And then it'll move on past. So it's called an annular eclipse. Back over here. And I just thought it was pretty cool. All right, so this eclipse day, there's a lot going on. There's a yod here. One thing, the sun, is making those and that funky angle over to Uranus here at 22 degrees, and then Neptune at 25. That's pretty close, and then those two are 2 signs apart. So it's like that quincunxs 180, 150 degrees over to here, and then another 150 degrees over here, over to, I should say here. One is over to Neptune, one is over to Uranus. And then Neptune and Uranus are 2 signs apart. So that makes them that 60 degrees on the bottom, and that's a yod. So both of those are then pointing there at the sun. So that those outer planets are, really funneling that energy there. So that's like unexpected or profound shifts or changes, maybe on a very large scale, because we've got these outer planets and the sun involved. So this can be very interesting eclipse. And as you remember, eclipses are like power outages or power surges, depending on how, where, and how, and what other energies are going on. So it could get, extreme energy or energized on things, or just none. So they kind of go both ways with different things. Things that are at this degree, this 21 degrees, is going to be significant for a while. So as things come around, as the moon hits this degree every month here, for several months, we'll have resonance of what happens now. So keep that in mind. Lots of crazy stuff. Okay, so we got the moon also is stressed as well. It's over in a half a square over to Venus. So it's just another intense thing. You think you could get help from this benefic, but it's not. It's just adding to the misery. So this again, Venus, Sun, ego, possessions, ego, finances, ego versus things you like, ego versus your finances, others challenging your finances, others challenging your stability, your things you like, how you look. So that could be stirred up as well. Again, take it all with a grain of salt. Let stuff that ego down and just, let it roll off your back like water on a duck's back. Let it roll off of you. What else? I told you about that. I told you about South Node. Talked about Mars. Yeah, I talked about that. Okay, so also remember that all of these, like the sun and the moon, are at that, both, I shouldn't say the sun only, the moon here is also at that quincunxs to these two outer, to Neptune and Uranus. So it's not just the sun. So we have our ego, but our emotions too, with the moon as well. So there's things that, it's like you just got to settle in. It just can't make it go away. As much as we want, it's not going to make it go away. But in an inconjunct or a quincunx, I'm sorry, is like no immediate resolutions. It's again something you can't quite do anything about. You just have to stew in it and maybe gather some strategy. So this is bringing a lot of awareness of things to us. It's like we're going to do a lot of adjustments, a lot of integrations, but it's also going to be bringing a lot of distractions to things. This whole month is about like the power structure. It's like in conflict with the hierarchy. The power structure. It's like it has an affinity to Pluto. Plutonic things and the big power people. The elites, the rich and powerful. That tyranny that all of that is, and then that corporate fascism. This stuff is like it's the position that people are seeing through this. People are seeing through the manipulative media. They're seeing through the rich and famous. They're seeing through how everything is controlled and contrived. They're seeing through all the lies, and this is what's being brought up to the surface. There's communications. This all this Uranian stuff is going to break us out of this denial that we have been. We're talking back to authority. We're speaking truth. This is what, a lot of these aspects are coming up, especially, these hard aspects like of Mercury and Venus, and especially over to Uranus. That is just a big, those are big changes. Those are big sudden things. Those are the Tower card. Those are lightning bolts. This is talking back to authority. This is speaking our truth. This is moving, toward dealing with our emotional needs, and our money and things that are being held back and restrained have reached the breaking point. And this is what we're seeing on a national and a global scale. So be cool, pray for peace. This is all being manipulated by those behind the curtain. Remember that last scene in The Wizard of Oz, when Toto is barking, they're all fixed on this great and powerful Oz, and Toto's pulling the curtain back. I can't say that enough. There is this agenda, and people are starting to see through the matrix. They're seeing through the maze. They're taking the red pill and they're waking up, and we can see this with astrology. All right, thanks for listening. I know there was a lot to this one, but it's an important week. This is kind of carving out the month. We have a lot of these quincunxs is happening throughout the month. A lot of the energy is carrying on, so just be cool. The first part of this month, it kind of gets a little better around the 18th, 19th, but we'll talk about that next week. Just got to make it through this week without too much annoyance. All right, all stay cool and be back next week. Bye for now.